Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Android Development for Beginners by Android Geeks. In this video, we will be learning about different properties of an Android application, where they are defined and how to change them. In the last video, we saw how to set up Android Studio, start a new Android project and run the project in an emulator. If you are new to this channel, I'll recommend that you check that video out. I'll leave the link to the video in the description, or you can click the link as shown here. Okay, let's get to the video. There are many different properties for an Android application. In this video, we will be focusing on only the most important properties of an application. So let's open the Gradle file. So if we look at this Gradle file, there are many properties defined here. So let's look at it one by one. The most important property here is the application ID. So the application ID is a unique ID that identifies your application throughout the world. There will be only one app with this particular ID. For the example, we have used com.example.myAwesomeAndroid application. So the usual convention that is followed in the Java world is to use a reverse domain pattern. For example, if your company's domain is google.com, then your application ID will be starting with the reverse of the domain, which is com.google.myawesomeandroid application. The next most important property of an application is the minimum SDK version or the min SDK version. Here we have mentioned it as 16, which means the device have to be running Android SDK version at least 16 to be able to run the app. The next important property that we are looking at is the target SDK version. The target SDK version of an application denotes the Android SDK version that the developer guarantees that the application will run properly on. So one thing that you have to keep in mind when defining your target SDK version is that you will be honoring all the restrictions that Android puts as an operating system from that version onward. So you can find different restrictions and features that Android is introducing on each version from the Android release notes. Please check the description of this video to find a link to that release notes. The next important properties of an application are the version code and the version name. Here the version code is 1 and the version name is 1.0. Usually the version names have 3 digits. Usually it will be the major, minor and the patch number. So the first time you upload your application to the Play Store, the version code can be 1 and the version name will be 1.0.0. The next time you make an update to the application, you will have to increment the version code by 1 and it will become 2. And if it's a patch update, the version name will become 1.0.1. But if it is a minor update, then the version name will become 1.1.0. Or if it's a major update, your version name will become 2.0. Another important property of the application is the compile SDK version. In fact, this is not an application property, this is mostly a project property, which means the compile SDK version that you mentioned here, in this case which is 28, will be the Android SDK version that will be used to build and run this project. Okay, so these are the main important properties that are defined in the Gradle. So let's look at other properties that are defined in the manifest file. So let's open the manifest file. Okay, here you can see that the name of the application is defined here with the Android label. You can see that the name is referred from the string file using the app name key. So let's go to the string file. Let's open the resources, value and strings. Here you can see that the app name is defined as My Awesome Android App. So this will be the name that you see when you run the app in a device or an emulator. The next most important property that is defined in the manifest is the icon of the application. Here you can see that the round icon is defined and it is referring to the value IC launcher round, which is in the mipmap folder. So here we can go to the resources folder, go to the mipmap folders, and you can see that there is IC launcher round defined. So if you open that, it shows the round app that will be shown when you run the application. So let's run the app and see. Okay, Now you can see that the app is running and it shows the name of the application, which is defined in the strings file as my awesome Android application. It's shown here. And if you look at the icon, it is also showing the round icon that is defined in the bitmap. So let's change the application name and see if it changes. So here, instead of my awesome Android application app, let's name it as application. So let's change it and run it once again. Again, the same. Okay, here you can see the name of the application have changed from my awesome Android app to my awesome Android application. Okay, now that we have seen some of the most important properties of an application, let's look at what Gradle is. So as you have seen, there are some Gradle files in the project, like the build.gradle and the outside build.gradle file. So these are configuration files for the Gradle system to run the project. So if you look at what Gradle is basically a build system for Java. Android Studio and Google recommends to use Gradle for building and running Android projects. So if you look at the project level Gradle file, here are the main application properties that are defined. Also, since Google recommends to use Gradle for building and running Android application, the Android Studio also provides good integration with the Gradle build system, as you can see here. So let's make some changes to a Gradle file and see what happens. So if you make any changes to a Gradle file like this, it becomes invalidated, and we will have to sync the file again. You can see an option to sync the Gradle file here, or you can use the button here to sync the file. Usually we just use this option here. So as you can see, the Gradle has started running and it has run some tasks and it has synced. So that is how usually Gradle is run, but since we are developers, we will want to find some easier way to do things. So another easier way to run Gradle is through command line. So let's open the command line or terminal and write some Gradle commands. So to invoke any Gradle commands, you have to write the command like this: Gradle, and what is the task that you want to run. So let's run a simple task called clean. So if you run the Gradle clean task, it will just clean the caches or any cache the Gradle has made. So next, let's just try to build and install the app using Gradle instead of using the Android Studio. The task for building and installing the Android project is install debug. So here you can see the Gradle is building the file, it's merging and it is installing. So right now it has installed that APK to the device. So let's just open it. So it comes. So as you can see, this is how we can run the Gradle commands from the terminal instead of running it from the Android Studio. The biggest advantage for this is we can speed up our Gradle builds. So let's look at something called the properties of the Gradle, which is defined in the file called gradle.properties. So there are many properties here. For example, here they have mentioned the JVM memory size to be little bit around 1 GB. And here we have another important property which is commented out. So let's uncomment that property. So this it says org.gradle.parallel equals to true, which means it is instructing the Gradle to run the Gradle in a parallel fashion. This is mainly important when we want to make speed up our Gradle builds. So let's sync the project and see how it changes. So let's clean and build our project. Okay, here there was not much of a difference. That's because we don't. This is a fairly new project, and we do not have much dependencies defined here. So as the number of dependencies increase, it's always good to enable parallel building in Gradle so that it will speed up your build time. So one Gradle tip that I would like to share is that, like, if you find any difficulties or issues with Gradle, it can mostly be fixed by just cleaning the project. So you can go to build and run clean project command, or you can do the same from the terminal using the Gradle terminal command. Another tip about Gradle is that if the issue still persists, you can go to file and invalidate caches and restart. So here you select invalidate caches and restart, which will invalidate all the Gradle caches and then start building the project from scratch. So this will mostly fix most of the Gradle issues. So that's it about today's episode. So in this video we saw all the important properties of an Android application and how to change some basic properties of the application. We also learned a little bit about Gradle and how to run Gradle from the command line, and also make Gradle a little bit faster. In the next video we will be moving more into Android basics, and we will be looking into activities, fragments and views. I would like to give a shout out to Surya S for subscribing to my channel and leaving her valuable comment about the video. So if you think that this video is useful, please like the video by clicking the thumbs up button. It lets me know if the video is useful to people. You can find links to other videos in the series of Android development tutorial for beginners in the description. I will be making new videos every week, so please subscribe and click the bell icon to get notified when new videos are released. And if you think the videos will be useful for someone else, please share this video with them on Facebook, Reddit or Twitter or any other social media that you use. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a nice day and see you next week.